Hey there, it's Jason from Codemanship with a short video diary entry this week about the joy of discovering new things. Now, there are all kinds of ways that you can discover new things in software development. You can read about them in books or on blogs. You can watch videos about them. You can learn them from your peers. Or sometimes, and this is usually the most satisfying way of finding things out, you can figure it out for yourself. And today I've had a bit of a light bulb moment regarding a certain refactoring problem that occasionally comes up. So I'm going to demonstrate this to you. So I'm working on the Guitar Shack legacy code example, and I'm sort of getting a little bit into it now. I haven't written any unit tests yet, as you'll find out, but getting into it a little bit. And I've broken my big ball of mud down into a bunch of classes. And I've got this sales history class that's got a get daily sales average for a product that's still doing too many things. And in particular, I've got my eye on this date logic. If I just highlight that there, this logic there that figures out the start date and the end date for the sales period, the date range, if you like, that we need to be calculating this daily sales average for. I'd like this date logic to be in its own class. And usually when I'm extracting new classes, the normal route I would take instinctively is to say, well, let's extract the code that I want this class to contain into its own method first. But it won't let me do that in Java because it has multiple return values. The start date and the end date are both referenced further down. Now, normally when I hit this, I go round the houses. I've been doing it the hard way all these years. I would say, well, okay, we better turn end date and start date into fields. Then we've got to extract a class. We've got to do this, go all around the houses. It's not very elegant, and I'm never happy with the end result. Now, the design I have in mind is that there should be some object that returns, let's call it a date range with a start date and an end date. So how do I get there elegantly? And the answer so far has been not easily. So if you watch a previous video that I recorded with Will Price, where we actually did the whole of the Guitar Shack legacy example together, you'll see how we did it the first time around. And it's not pretty. It is a real compromise because I had a design in mind. But I was focusing on the wrong code. The reason it has multiple return variables is because those variables are referenced in code further down. So the code that I should really be focusing on to begin with is this block of code here that gets the sales total for that date range. If I were to extract this code into its own method, like get sales total, you'll see that necessarily it has to introduce the start date and the end date as parameters of that method. And that opens a door. That opens a door for us because we have another refactoring we can do. Notice that I'm not running any unit tests, so we're really taking a risk here. But if I were to introduce parameter object, and we can create a new class that has a start date and an end date, let's call that the date range. And let's see if we can move these around a little bit. So really we want our start date to come before the end date. Okay. There we go. So now we've got this new type of object. I would normally be running tests at this point. And if I introduce a local variable for this object, like that, now, hey presto, I've got a block of code that doesn't return a start date and an end date. It returns a date range, one variable. So we can use extract method here, and it should work. In fact, it has. Lovely doubly. I can just inline that and clean that up a little. So let's clean you up. Okay. And now it's easy as peas to use the extract delegate, which is basically a kind of extract class. And it's that method we're interested in. And let's call this the sales period. Like so. Bish bosh, job done, basically. We've extracted the class that has the logic in it that returns a date range, which is the design I had in mind to begin with. But it was literally just a few minutes ago, last thing on a Friday, just occurred to me that you could that's a better way of doing it. But the joy of figuring that out is that's why I'm still programming after I don't know, 470 odd years, is the sheer joy of figuring things out for yourself. Now, I don't doubt there'll be some of you out there who already have, done it that way, figured it out. And you could have told me, and it would have been satisfying to know that. Go, oh, that's very interesting. But it never compares to the satisfaction of figuring it out for yourself. Solving problems as opposed to being told the solutions is what this job is all about. And that's why we love it. That's also why that's like the 5th or 6th time that I've attempted this particular refactoring exercise, because it's different every time. The sequence of refactorings changes. It gets more efficient and more elegant and safer every time that I do it. And so there is value, despite what people may say about repetition in terms of learning. There is value in repetition when the purpose of repetition is not just to repeat, to maybe build habits or whatever, although that in itself has some value. But repetition in terms of seeing if you can do it better, and you keep doing the same exercise, I think, until you can't find a way to do it better. And that's where the real deep learning comes from. When we try it once, we get quite shallow learning of, well, we did okay with that one. But the real deep learning often comes from trying it again and again and again. A bit like, Groundhog Day, that, we just get better and better and better at going through that particular exercise. Or indeed, what's the sci-fi version of Groundhog Day? Edge of Tomorrow, yeah. So a bit like Edge of Tomorrow, basically. It's not just that you're fighting the same battle over and over again. As you go, you're learning and you're getting better at it. And through that process of getting better at the same exercise, you tend to get better at doing other exercises, solving other problems. So I'm never going to forget what I've just figured out. That's going to stick with me. So the next time I hit that problem, I'll be looking at the code underneath the code that I'm interested in to see what I can do with that. So there you go. That's this week's video diary entry. Sorry it's been a while. Hope you're staying safe. And until the next one, keep on coding.